time.
Do you understand what is happening right now? Do you understand that people are already suffering and dying right now? You know,
which is why we're putting £90 billion
happening in Madagascar right now, which has been declared officially by the UN as a result of the climate crisis.
What would
East
you
Africa is
do
experiencing
instead?
a huge drought. In Chile, where my family come from, we have had an extreme drought for 13 years now, getting worse and worse, and we've seen lakes the size of Central Park in New York just dry up into almost nothing, and whole communities now don't have access to water.
We are putting billions. It's not excuses, they're facts.
It's mixing the fact that if we continue down this path, it is a death sentence, and you keep on looking at excuses why not to do it.
I don't know why these facts seem to upset you so much. They are facts. The fact is we're not ready with renewables yet.
What we know 100% is that if we continue down this path, then we are sentencing young people all over the world to death.
I know, and you keep saying that, but you haven't offered one alternative. I'm not. If you give me an alternative that is ready now, I will be right behind you.
Incredible people working on these alternatives who don't get the backing, who don't get the funding, because our government is in bed with the oil industry.
Annette told you how much funding is being given. 90 billion isn't enough.
And also, earlier you were talking about, you know, how starting drilling in the North Oil Sea will give us some kind of security that we don't have at the moment. That oil does not belong to us. It belongs to about 20 different companies who have licenses. It will not help our economy.
So would it help to buy it from Saudi Arabia or Russia then?
It won't help. It won't help us. It doesn't belong to us, and it won't help people with the energy crisis right now. We need the government to be investing in people instead of these companies who, again, have more money than they know what to do with.
But they are investing in the tune of 90 billion, and they're also investing in private equity funds, and also you and I can invest in these. I know, because we need something in the meantime, Claudia.
But we have oil in the meantime. We have plenty of oil. Continuing to drill now will mean that we don't meet our net zero targets, which are already weak, and it will not help us with the problem right now. It will only keep us hooked to oil, to an industry that is destroying our planet.
So we've got plenty of oil. Why is it so expensive then if oil is so plentiful?
You know how much oil companies are profiting from this cost of living crisis right now?
I do. They are profiting from it.
So why is our government continuing to give them millions of pounds?
Because we don't have the alternatives ready yet. I mean, we're kind of going around in circles, but we don't have the alternatives ready yet.
Give us a sense of security.
And we're investing. Okay, who funds you?
What do you mean, who funds us?
Who funds Just Stop Oil?
What do you mean? We don't have some huge funder that you're talking about.
Well, what about the Climate Emergency Fund based in Los Angeles? What's that about then?
Christo, I'm not the person to talk to about funding. I'm here to talk about the climate crisis. I'm here to talk about why we need to move away from
And you're representing Just Stop Oil, and it's being funded by
but why are we not asking the
Climate Emergency Fund? And I'm just wondering what
why are we not talking about the urgency of our situation? Why are we not talking about the fact that if we don't move away from fossil fuels, our children will not have food?
We can talk about more than one thing.
But you haven't acknowledged the reality of our situation. You haven't acknowledged that the fact that
if you want me to, I don't know what you want from me. If you want
children born today in the UK will not have enough food to eat. They will be fighting for survival by the time they are teenagers. That is the reality of our situation. If our government don't get a grip, don't take action and stop new fossil fuel projects.
And are you planning any protests, bearing in mind our net zero commitments, bearing in mind that our global carbon footprint is so low? Are you, I mean, it's a question I'm sure you've been asked before, but I'll ask it again. Are you planning any protests at the Chinese embassy, for instance?
I hate this whole, let's go to China and let's blame China.
They're massive carbon emitters.
They are, but the UK has gone through their industrial revolution. They have now reaped the rewards, right?
So that's enough.
Hold on. So while we absolutely have to acknowledge that, globally we have to do things, this is a global problem. It requires global solutions. There's no point pointing fingers and saying, oh, well, China's doing this, so let's not make an effort.
So it's a global problem, but there's no point in calling out global nations that are creating this problem.
If the UK government claim to be the climate leaders that they claim to be, they need to lead by example.
But you're pointing fingers at UK government at motorists trying to get from A to B, it would just seem logical that China and India...
I'm in no way blaming motorists trying to get A to B.
Well, I mean, you tell that to someone trying to get their children to school, trying to get to work to earn a living. You can't because you vandalised a petrol station.
The children who won't have enough food to eat in a few decades because the government is refusing to act on the climate crisis.
Well, then you must be thrilled that there's £90 billion being put into it by 2030, if you're saying we've got decades.
I'm not thrilled because they're looking to licence over 40 new oil fields.
Because we need something in the meantime. I don't know what about that you're having trouble understanding.
But do you understand that, again, starting drilling now, it will take over a decade to come online. It's not going to help us with our current situation. All it's going to do is keep us hooked on the very thing that is destroying our future.
China produced almost two-thirds of the growth in emissions since 2000.
So do we.
Say that again?
China need to do better. We all need to do better.
So why aren't you protesting at the Chinese embassy or the Indian embassy or any of the countries? You don't need to go to the countries, but then you're going to get your protest heard, and you might also have the support of people here in the UK, a country that is actually aiming for net zero, a country, and I take what you're saying, that you're not happy about the oil field investment, but at least we're actually doing something here, whereas those countries aren't doing nearly enough.
We need to lead by example. We need to do better.
But we are.
But we're not. Again, we keep licensing the oil fields, putting millions of pounds worth of investments into an industry that is killing.
I mean, isn't it just easier to do this? Aren't you just choosing the easy option? It's easier just to...
easy option?
Because you're inconveniencing British people. You're deciding to vandalise petrol stations here. That's just the easy option, isn't it?
Do you really think that's what we want to be doing?
Well, clearly it is.
It's not. No one wants to do this. Absolutely no one wants to, be risking their career, to be risking their future in prison. No one wants to be inconveniencing people. But we are doing this because we have been left with no alternative, because for decades people have been trying everything else and the government need to listen, and we are in an emergency and we need an emergency response.
Okay. I mean, I just think that it would be wise that we had an alternative in place before you protest what's happening now, that's all. And it would seem logical to me and logical to anyone listening that that would be the chain of events.
We have alternatives. Our government are refusing to invest in those. They just continue to give money to an industry that is killing our future. And again, people are suffering right now. People are dying right now. And continuing on this path will only guarantee a death sentence for young people. That is the reality of the situation. So anything else is making excuses. Making
excuses. All right, Claudia Penna Rojas, thank you from Just Stop Oil. Good to talk to you. And if anyone who's listening, she just held up a sign saying new fossil fuels equal a death sentence.